The year is 2015. Drake had just bodied Meek with Back to Back. Fetty Wap is one of the hottest artists at the time, and Empire is actually good. There was also an infamous fight that took place in the underground hip-hop streetwear realm between Atlanta rapper Playboi Carti and internet personality and DJ Kerwin. Many of you should already know about the fight, but if you haven't, what if I told you that the fight had nothing to do with them specifically and really stemmed from a beef between two other youth fashion moguls in Ian Connor and Austin Babbitt, also known as Asspizza. These fighters went on to go viral multiple times and in some sense a staple in these guys' careers, creating many memes, generating millions of views on social media platforms, and goes down as one of the most funny, riveting, yet confusing videos in the community. Why were Carti and Kerwin fighting? Why was Ian coaching Carti in the background like a dad at their son's basketball game? Why was the Christmas tree upside down? And why was Carti doing ad-libs during a fight? I mean, somebody put this man in the studio already. But most importantly, why did this even take place? Especially with how the video has aged, with it being 5 years since this historic event and where everyone is now, it leaves many people curious of what happened and what led up to this and what transpired the beef between Austin and Ian, and if there's still tension between them to this day. How could a mutual and seemingly positive and bright relationship go so sour? And honestly, if I could describe this beef in one word, it would be some petty internet shit. But to really understand this whole debacle, let's start from the beginning. Now, we should all know about Ian's come up. It's the success story that seems straight out of a comic book and sort of happened in the blink of an eye. Only in a span of 3 years, he would go from that one ugly fly jit down the block to becoming Kanye West's creative consultant and a huge tastemaker in the game himself. The Atlanta native later migrating to none other than the Big Apple. You see, at 18 years old, Ian, like many in streetwear at the time, got his start from the 2012 Tumblr era, before it became a hub for creepy fan fictions and freaky gifs. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Modeling for various clothing brands such as Pyrex, Praise, and the Stussy Babe collab. Ian will soon gain enough of a following to get the attention of fashion designer Will Fry, who then in 2013 printed his face all over a mesh shirt jersey along with a matching pair of shorts. This was Ian's first big look on the fashion side of things, mainly because it was weird but unique. I mean, just look at it. It's just his face all over a shirt with his distinct mug all over it. It was very eye-catching as it was being worn by influencers like Trinidad James, who at the time had his hit song All Cold Everything bubbling in the Hot 100, and they even gained the attention of Tyler the Creator. And while he didn't have the nicest things to say about it, it didn't matter because Ian knew exactly what he was doing. He was getting his face out there and knew that he would take the industry over by storm. And it was around this time that Ian would be the self-proclaimed king of the youth, which honestly doesn't really have a specific meaning, but when asked about this, he says everything he does is for the youth, as he believed that the industry wasn't worried about the youth or the new generation at all, and he wanted to change that by opening doors and breaking boundaries. And you see, Ian didn't mind the negative comments at all, as he actually branded himself as this ugly kid and embraced it and made it a key factor in his career, inspiring the youth, and that's what separated Ian from the crowd. When the desired look was to be a handsome, tall, muscular man, Ian defied that stigma, being the complete opposite of that, standing at 5'5" and around 100 pounds while still making noise in fashion and ultimately the rap game. And since he's not the most handsome, he gave many the inspiration that you're not ugly, and if you are, you shouldn't let it stop you, because look at him. I mean, I'm telling you, Ian is probably one of the most successful non-rapping rappers of all time. Right behind Birdman, of course, but he actually makes music sometimes. He wasn't rapping, but he was hanging around and styling rappers like Theophilus London and Wiz Khalifa. And being seen with figures like these would only get him more in the limelight for both fashion and hip-hop, modeling and styling for huge brands like Supreme and Off-White. Eventually, through the Theophilus connection, Ian will soon be recognized by V-Lone founder A$AP Bari and A$AP Rocky, who saw Ian as his protege, and they soon had and still have a close father-son type of relationship, later signing him to his collective Awe. Later that year, Ian would make a cameo appearance in Ferg's Shaba music video, which now has damn near over 100 million views, where he was just seen dancing, looking swagged out, and ironically was the unexpected eye candy of the video. This was Ian's first big look at hip-hop, as this was how myself and many other people found out about him. Being heavily associated with the A$AP mob, where I would say they were at their peak, it's safe to say that he was at the top. Along with his connections with certain celebrities in the game, his outlandish, ignorant, yet inspiring personality would push him to celebrity status, and would lead to him having a die-hard cult-like fan base. Like, for example, with his infamous Soldier Ian Twitter. His tweets were getting thousands of likes, where his fans would treat every single one of them as if they were verses from the Bible. And it was just him putting his feelings out there and kicking games to them about his life. Like, for example, I'll die iconic, and that's where I'll really be at peace. Who needs friends or family when you can confide into your clothes? Yeah, I ate your ass, but I still ain't gonna. Alright, who put this in the script? Never get too comfortable. What you have can be taken from you. People come and go. No room for friends when your enemies are so close. This hoe want a Birkin. Won't buy her a I'll make someone a happy girlfriend one day. Despite how weird, ugly, and awkward I am, I know it. Damn. That was actually pretty sad, I'm not gonna lie. I contemplate suicide, but then I remember I got to do. I'm gonna defeat ISIS. There's just no denying Ian's influence on the youth and fashion trends in general. He was one of the first to popularize the dad cap wave that's still a thing to this day. And I mean, bro even had people wearing Skechers for a few months. Like you weren't just clowning your grandpa for wearing it last week, now you hear what you're looking at. All because of him. If his fans saw him promoting something, wearing a piece, or with a broken iPhone camera, they would do the same, and that's just how influential he is. Now enter Asspizza. In December of 2013, Ian would tweet out a picture of him with a random 50-year-old white kid saying, "When Asspizza is old enough, I'm gonna bring him over to London and he's gonna be the biggest model around." Due to Ian's popularity and fan base, he reportedly took Austin from a mere 32 followers on social media to a staggering 15,000 in only a month. Now you might be asking yourself, how could at the height that Ian was discover someone with such a low follower count and damn near no fan base at all? Well, as you should know by now, Ian was a bubbling name in fashion by 2013, and during this time he'll befriend many of the cool kids in the game, also known as the next generation, like Shane Gonzalez, Mike the Ruler, and Lucas Sabat, who discovered Austin from his Tumblr account where he did unique graffiti designs, later introduced him to Ian in New York, and they spent a whole day together. And from then, Ian has said that he saw something special in Asspizza. And if you know anything about Ian, you would know that he has the vision. With him being the king of the youth, he would make it one of his priorities to help any up-and-coming artists, models, fashion designers, or anything grow only if he knew that they had something in them, which is something he's done and still does to this day. Some at different lengths, but love him or hate him, I think we can all agree that Ian has put on for many people in the industry. And that's one reason why I f with Ian so much, cause he didn't have to do things like this, and if anything, he could have been on his Hollywood and not acknowledge any up-and-coming talent, but he does, and he does it not from a financial point, but from an organic place, and it comes natural. And this is exactly what he did for Austin. And in the following months of that tweet, Austin would blow up onto the scene and was seen hanging around artists and influencers who were wearing his tagged up caps and shirts like I Love McConan, Post Malone, Wiz Khalifa, and he even had a small cameo in Lord's music video for Yellow Fricker Beat. And it was around this time that he would meet Kerwin, and they clicked almost immediately, and he was later recruited into the Spaghetti Boys, which consisted of the founders Kerwin, Ray Martinez, and the honorary members included Father Steve, Luca, Mike the Ruler, etc, etc, etc. This collective of young men were a group of entrepreneurs, and honestly, that's the only way I can describe them. While the group mainly focused on fashion, you can't box them into that realm specifically, as everyone in the group was aspiring in different careers, with Luca being an up-and-coming model at the time, Austin being a clothing designer, Kerwin being the personality, Father Steve being an artist, and Sheck West rapping. They were attacking all sources of income, all while still being connected with themselves and the youth. Austin and the group are now seen as the new cool kids on the block, as all of them are either freshly out of high school or freshly dropped out of high school. They would even gain a larger fan base outside of streetwear from Austin's Vine account. Austin had a pretty big Vine account when that was at his peak, where he and the gang would just fool around New York doing typical teenager things, like, you know, posing as a store security guard complete with a metal detector, riding on a moving UPS truck, smashing a streetlight on the sidewalk, and this.
Nah, they on Gucci, Louis, 3 Bar logo. These niggas out there.
Yes! Yes! You know, typical teenage activities. And these 6-second videos would go fairly viral, as they were posted on Twitter, attracting a fan base even outside of the streetwear. They were just doing things the untraditional way. When all the other big name brands were giving out coupons and promo codes, the boys were hosting random parties and doing pop-ups for merch. They were doing things differently, the way that their much younger fan base were more drawn to, and were seen as what Kerwin would say, the black sheep of the industry. Due to Asspizza's growing popularity in both streetwear and social media, he was at a new height of success, along with his friends, and was drawing the attention of major brands and media outlets like NY-based V-Files, Complex, who named him a certified cool kid, and Fader. So come November 2014, it was no shock to see that Fader interviewed Austin. The interview was pretty brief though, and was more or less of a conversation where the interviewer Reese? Is that Raisin? Set the tone of the interview within the first few lines of the article, saying, "It's not always easy to tell when a 16-year-old is f***ing with you." Though when I first met Asspizza, I was pretty sure he was. Where she pretty much asked him about life following his newfounded fame, where the questions range from his brand, his take on social media, being an influence of style to the youth, and school, to pretty laid-back responses. And I feel like this is one reason why his fan base was so drawn to him, apart from his style and clothing design, but just because of the fact that he was so young, thriving in the game, and that he was so nonchalant and humble to the success. And that was just his whole thing. He never took anything serious. And you might be thinking, oh, that's just a regular rebel teenage mindset. But no, the way that Austin came off was real and it didn't seem forced. He felt more like a real person more than a manufactured persona like many in the game right now. And the way that he lived life was like as if nothing mattered. Yep, thank you. But carrying on, it was exciting to see Asspizza get some shine. But Ian didn't seem to think so. Almost immediately on the same day that the interview dropped, defaming Austin with a series of tweets that now can't be seen since his Twitter has been suspended for, let's be honest, probably safety issues. Hey, if you know, you know. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And really, that goes for a lot of media surrounding this beef. The tweets and the videos have all either been privated or deleted, with only a little bit of content still archived by the community. So if the info or the media timeline seems a bit off, just know that my main goal in this video is to give you guys the overall consensus of the beef and the main moments, and not every single part of it, because some of it is just banter. But anyways, trust me, there were a lot of tweets. I mean back to back. But to sum up the reason for the feud in simpler terms, Ian was just upset that Austin didn't pay homage or acknowledge him at all in his interview. Especially with Fader being the platform that it is, having had exclusive content with many cemented figures in the game. This was a huge look for Austin, and Ian saw it as disrespect and negligence. Homage has always been an important thing to not only influencers, but people in general. But particularly in this case with Ian, since we all know that he was basically put on by Wiz and the mob, he's paid homage and cite them as people who've helped him to get to where he's at right now with no shame. So for Ian seeing someone that he helped build up and acquire his own fan base not recognize him for his aid in kickstarting their career and basically getting him the connections, he was very upset. And it wasn't a clout thing for Ian since he was the king himself, but it was more of a respect thing, more of a moral thing. Now like I said, many of the tweets have been deleted or just can't be seen, but this one tweet has been archived by a fan, and it shows that it was released a day after the Twitter feud, if you can even call it that, where Ian screenshotted a DM between him and Asspizza, captioned, "This is what a jealous girlfriend act like," where Austin is more apologetic and passive, saying things like, "Thanks man, but what are you going off on me for? And you know I always paid you homage, man. I'd always thank you, but you started to cut me off," making me assume that there's more to the beef that, like I said, we just don't know because there isn't media out there, and it probably gets much deeper than this. But Ian was not hearing it, and that goes for the majority of the feud. It felt more one-sided if anything, especially since Austin had no reason to dislike Ian, and he never really went out of his way to diss him, until this of course. But in my opinion, it looked like Ian took things the wrong way and kinda overreacted. And I even think that Ian would agree now that the way he handled the situation and responding to Asspizza was childish and could have been handled way more maturely, by just hitting him up personally and not taking things to the internet. And truly, all of this could have been avoided. So tweet after tweet and following a Rolling Stone interview along with a vlog of Austin and the boys with the same outcome as the Fader interview, it was now known between each circle and the community that Ian and Asspizza were not messing with each other. So now we're in 2015. 2014 was just the beginning for not only the beef, but their careers being in the larger aspect of the mainstream. Austin had an on and off relationship with social media around this time, mainly because of the beef, and was just focusing on his clothing and his projects with the Spaghetti Boys. And Ian was at what I would say his peak year, modeling for Yeezy season 1 and 2, and stealing the show while at it, becoming Kanye's stylist or creative consultant. He became the face of V-Lone, popularizing that, taking that to a whole new level. And he was just seen hanging around with huge influencers like the Kardashians, and allegedly was styling for Kylie Jenner. In the midst of all of this success, Ian would take on a new business venture in managing the at the time 18-year-old Playboi Carti, aka Sir Cartier, aka Cash Carti, aka Jordan, aka Jesus. As you guys should know from earlier, Ian has a great eye for talent. And if you know anything about Carti's come up, you know that Ian was about 90% responsible for his success pre-Magnolia. Taking him from Awful Records to OG, he was slowly making his way up from the underground to that mainstream attention. Ian would constantly be posting videos of Carti, snippets, show dates, up-and-coming festivals, and he was just giving him this big push because prior to meeting Ian, Carti had less than 1,000 followers on SoundCloud, less than 1,000 on Twitter. He was pretty much a nobody until Ian. And he also, at least I think, got Carti the connections with producers like Mexico Joe, who he's made classics with like Broke Boy and Had To. And I even think he introduced him to Pierre. And we already know about that duo. And I guess we all have to say thanks to Ian for introducing Carti to Uzi, because he definitely created something magical. Ian took Carti under his wing, kind of like his relationship with Rocky, but instead of a father-son type of thing, it was more of a brother-brother relationship, even to this day. And around 2015 and 2016, they seemed inseparable. Like, if you saw Carti, most likely Ian was not too far. There were countless videos of them just showcasing their brotherly bond, like a Toronto vlog following Ian and Carti, where they were just seen slapboxing, talking about who f***s the most bitches, and this.
They can be like, oh, some niggas can say I changed on them because I thought they was on the same shit I was on, but they not. Or they was on some shit that I wanted to be on, and when I got on that shit, I got on it, then surpassed them, and they was just lost in the sauce. I'm like, damn, how the f you gonna, nigga, you ain't even, you boring. Nigga, you not even practicing what you preach, my nigga. Yeah, what the f is you doing? You done told me to do this, but now that I f***ed your bitch, you mad at me? Nigga, you taught me how to do this shit.
I'm sorry. Every time I see that, I get emotional.
Some niggas can say I changed on them, cause I thought they was on the shit that I was on.
Carti, shut the f up, my nigga. Real shit, though. Talking about? You trying to drop knowledge. What are you talking about, drop a mixtape, my nigga?
And what made this video even more important was the fact that Carti was really dropping knowledge. If not on life in general, then his own life. And since Carti doesn't do too many interviews, this was literal gold to have him open up and get the whole room and world's attention. In the video, he spoke on his family and his upbringing, and he pays homage and expresses his love for Rocky, Father, Ethereal, Madman Savage, and Ian.
Only nigga that can kill me right now is Ian Connor. You know why he kill me? Because that's my brother. He can shut me down, but any other nigga on this rap shit, I don't give a f if you 50 Cent, king of the trash talk. You can't shut me down, nigga.
By right here, you might be thinking, oh, Austin and Ian shouldn't be beefing by now, right? They're both doing their own thing now. Ian's in the lab with Kanye and in the studio with Carti, and Asspizza with the Spaghetti Boys had an up-and-coming collab with Heron Preston and Off-White, and things were looking up for the both of them. And you would be right, as Ian wasn't really tweeting about it anymore, and it looked like he was moving on. I mean, there were a few subtle shots here and there, but for the most part, it seemed peaceful. Now enter John Ross. Until around August of 2015, John Ross, who was a very close friend of Ian around that time, went to Twitter to expose Asspizza for running a fraud clothing brand called Marcel Zago and it being a fake business that Austin and his friends used to scam people with. And he pretty much gained attention from being around Carti and Ian and modeling for various brands like OVO. And he was very known in streetwear for his Supreme collection and selling Supreme, and he was sought to be Ian's protege as he was 14 years old at the time. Now, I'm not sure why or what triggered John Ross to do this, but I can only assume that something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about, or just the fact that Ian had beef with him. But anyways, in response to John Ross, Austin sent him a very harsh private text message where it reads, "Yo, are you stupid? First off, I didn't make Marcel Zago, and it's a joke. Anyway, nice job ruining it. Second, don't diss me. Your clothes are so terrible, lol. I could have put you on. Don't know what I'm working on, but I was gonna have you be a part of it. But it's okay. Go have fun with Ian Connor. I'm sure you'll be making big moves for the youth. You're both young visionaries." Kind of mocking him and his relationship with Ian. So following the fury of back and forth tweets and text messages between John and Asspizza, Ian took to Twitter to say, "I'ma beat the f out of Asspizza when I catch him, and that's on my worthless life." So there it was. It was on site. And I ain't talking Kanye. Definitely not talking Kanye. And with social media being social media, it was hyped up in the community as there were fans instigating it all over Twitter. Shortly after the tweet, John Ross released a video where it seemed like Austin was apologizing to both him and Ian. And now, I'm not sure when this video was released since it's now been re-uploaded, but I'm assuming that it was around the fall of 2015. But anyways, let's look at this video.
Yep. Sorry, John Ross. Sorry, John Ross. Sorry, Ian. I'll leave y'all alone. Love y'all. Thanks, Ian. You helped me in the beginning. I'll leave y'all alone.
Now, as you can see, Austin was apologizing, and while I do understand the reason for this video, as he most likely wanted to defuse the situation from escalating, but damn, it looked like Ian sent his goon squad to film this because the way he was talking was so awkward and scared. And if he really sent this himself, kudos to him, but this really made him look bad since he was also dissing Ian and John, and to make an apology video, it kind of looked like he was contradicting everything, and it just looked really bad, especially since he had nothing to apologize for, but I still respect it. So yeah, fast forwarding to December 4th, 2015, fed up with all the hate, bashing, harassing, trashing, damn. Y'all need to put me in the studio. Asspizza in a dingy looking apartment and in the legendary Soulja Boy inspired glasses, he uploaded a response video addressing all the beef with John Ross and Ian Connor. In the video, he was letting things off of his chest. As stated by him, it was weighing heavy on his conscience and affecting his everyday life. But he addresses the beef and explains everything that went down in 8 facts. And apart from the constant pausing and lip smacking, I will say this was a pretty good video. It was very informational and gives anyone that wasn't too sure about the beef to have a deeper understanding to it. 10 out of 10 content would Fap 2 again. But anyway,
So fact number 1.
He talks about how he met Ian in Queens, and when Ian posted a pic of him on Twitter, and how that led to him getting his clothes on Wiz, Theophilus London, many other people, and just acknowledging the fact that Ian did give him that first push in the industry.
Fact number 3.
He carries on to talk about how Ian bashed him on Twitter for not paying him homage in his Fader interview, but in his defense, he says that the interviewer never posed questions about his come up or who helped him to get to where he's at, which is very true actually. Reading the article, you can see that the interviewer only asked him questions about his mindset and his take on certain things, but never his rise to fame. Adding to that, saying that he would have mentioned Ian if the question came up.
Fact number 4.
He talks about how he went MIA from social media and that he was still getting hate from Ian and his fans. He also points out the fact that Ian is 5 years older than him, because at the time Ian was 22 and Austin was 17, probably poking fun at his maturity.
Fact number 5.
He talks about how he and John actually used to be cordial prior to the beef with Ian, and how they used to text back and forth like friends. But now that Ian hates him,
He wants to please his master.
he also says that he actually FaceTimed John Ross to ask him what the problem was, to no real response.
He's just replying with jabber, you know? Fact number 7.
He adds context to the apology video that John released and reveals that somehow he got in contact with Ian, who said if he was to send an apology video to both him and John, then the beef would be dead and everyone would live happily ever after, which he did, but we all know that didn't happen.
Fact number 8.
He says that he isn't scared of them, as it may have came off that way due to the way that he handled this situation. And this leads to his final point, an offer. He challenges Ian to an amateur boxing match to quote-unquote settle things. They could either be cool again or just go their separate ways, and both of these guys could get it back from this if they rented a venue and promoted this as an actual event. So whoever lost, really, it was still a W. And in his own words, this was the only way things could be done, and that words could not solve this issue. I mean, the boxing concept seemed pretty cool. It was a way 2 people or more could duel it out in the ring, and many influencers have done this before, especially with YouTubers. Nowadays, it's kind of played out, but since no one had really boxed it out before, it was something different that people wanted to see and were willing to pay for. And it kind of shows that Asspizza was ahead of his time. Just saying. Needless to say, streetwear was now in an uproar. Tweet after tweet, post after post, article after article, and obviously so. The 2 biggest youth icons were about to fight. Well, maybe. Fans were waiting and waiting to see how Ian or John would respond. Days go on and no response. Now we're here, the day of the fight, December 22nd, 2015. Asspizza, according to him, along with Kerwin, were at fashion designer Gianna Moore's apartment in New York, just hanging out, watching TV, and probably discussing ideas for a future collab. You see, Gianni was a friend of everyone in this situation, and in all of their eyes, still a pretty solid fella. The at the time 18-year-old fashion designer was a visual artist and creative consultant for Pastel, and styled for both Thousand Band Fani and Carti, and still designs for Carti to this day. Then according to Asspizza, while hanging out, he was unexpectedly told by Gianni that Carti and Ian were pulling up. Gianni tried to reassure him that they were just gonna come and work, but Austin could smell the cap in the air, and he knew off rip that something was gonna go down, and he was ready. So boom, Carti and Ian pull up to the door. This is when Ian runs up on Austin, but jokingly says that he's actually not gonna fight him, but someone has to fight Carti. Austin then rebuttals Ian by saying that this is unfair and how Carti and Kerwin have nothing to do with this. After an exchange of words, Carti gets angry and attacks Austin. In defense of his friend, Kerwin goes back at Carti. This is where the video starts. Ian begins to record this legendary clip in the tagged up apartment with an upside down Christmas tree, and Carti gives Kerwin that flatbed freestyle treatment and even attacks Austin for a little bit. Don't touch him! And with it being so short and random, it's no wonder why the video went so viral. But according to Asspizza, nothing really significant happened after the 30-second clip, as Ian and Carti left the apartment, with Ian saying he wouldn't post the video and would keep it to himself, to dropping the video 30 minutes later on Twitter. This clip blew up almost immediately, being retweeted all over Twitter and was posted by media outlets like N-Hype Magazine and No Jumper. But fans were confused. Since the beef was mainly between Austin and Ian, everyone thought that, well, if anyone was gonna fight, it would be them, but they didn't. And you guys might be wondering why I keep saying things according to Austin. That's because Ian, Carti, and John have mainly been quiet on this situation as far as I can tell. But there was one thing that John Ross said after the fight, which was in a now deleted No Jumper interview, which is still on SoundCloud, where he says Austin just started acting different ever since he got clouded up, and Asspizza got what he deserved, and in his own words, it was gonna happen sooner or later. In response to the video, Austin posted a picture with Kerwin right after the fight that's still on his Instagram, where it's captioned, "You win some, you lose some," admitting to taking the L, along with some tweets to defend his name. So overall, to answer the question of this video, if you couldn't tell by now, Carti was fighting for Ian and Kerwin was fighting for Austin, and really, it's just as simple as that. It's just friends fighting for each other. In the following weeks of the video, Austin released a response and was put on a No Jumper podcast, where he pretty much said the same thing. In the podcast, he briefly speaks on his issues with Ian Connor and many other things.
I would almost rather see you strip.
But to sum up the 38-minute interview, or at least for the 8 minutes that he talks about the beef, clarifies what happened prior, during, and after the fight. He talks about how Carti and Kerwin had nothing to do with the situation, how he still wants to box Ian, and if the beef was to be taken further by Ian or Carti, then the Spaghetti Boys had something to quote-unquote end it. And it was certainly known that there was still tension between them. But after that interview, things were pretty quiet for a while, publicly at least, since no one was tweeting at each other, no one was making subtweets, no one was leaking nudes, and fans weren't even instigating it anymore. Until the summer of 2016, or as what I would like to call it, the fall of Ian Connor. Now, as most of you should know, this was when Ian fell out with Theophilus London and ASAP Bari as his rape allegations started to surface. I'm not going to speak on these allegations, or at least right now, because it's a very serious topic and I don't want to influence anybody's judgment on it. But I think we can all agree that this was when Ian's growth, or at least in the mainstream aspect, was put to a halt. He lost a lot of his credibility and just his overall look. So needless to say, just like with everyone who's faced the same thing as him, it's always followed him and really tarnished his name. All while this was happening, Kerwin and Austin took it upon themselves to release the video. The video that was mentioned in the No Jumper interview, and it was revealed to be a clip prior to the Carti fight of Kerwin and Ian, where Kerwin puts the beats on. And this just added more fuel to Ian's already scorching fire. In the video, it looked like both were hesitant to fight until Kerwin was pushed into Ian, and Kerwin started using his back as a drum set. Hit him in the face! But this really just made fans more confused, since yet again the beef was between Austin and Ian, and it's actually very ironic that they never even fought, and the fights were just between Kerwin and Ian, and Kerwin and Carti, and Asspizza never fought them. I just think it's kind of funny. After releasing this video, Austin went on a series of tweets, like for example, "We didn't post this video because we want attention, and we still have respect for Ian, but he keeps f***ing around, so f*** it." And he continued to tweet about how Ian has tried to sabotage his career multiple times, with posting the Carti fight after saying he wouldn't, and just that he's tired of all the beef. And Kerwin tweeted back at you, "It always comes back around." And really, this was the end of everything. And honestly, it's probably for the best, because who knows where this would have went. Looking back at it, it was kind of fair. Ian released a video of Austin and Kerwin getting beat up, and in return, Austin released a video of him getting beat up. So all in all, it was fair. And 5 years after those tweets and videos, everyone, at least in my opinion, are the most successful they've ever been. Kerwin has been working on the Spaghetti Boys in his new talk show, Kerwin Frost Talks, with guests from Tyler to SZA to Chief Keef, where they just talk for an hour, and it's pretty entertaining, along with some of his vlogs too. Carti created his own language, and really a whole movement, and is probably one of the biggest rappers in this day of age. Austin has been on his revolutionary shit, and he's gotten pretty thick. And some of you guys might not agree with me on this one, since he was first sought to be in the mainstream, but he's continued to be underground and still successful the organic way. He now has a cult-like following that just love his clothing and just the way he carries himself in general. He's been working on his Asspizza clothing line, which is fire, and while the way he does business is kind of questionable, you just can't help but love the guy. And he's gotten some of his clothes on artists like X, Zillakami, and has been featured in music videos like Running Back by Craig Zen and Trapped by Jumex. Fuck Jumex. Thank you. And is just living his life as a regular 21-year-old. Ian has been working on both of his brands, Revenge Storm and Sicko Born from Pain, but mainly Sicko, and is now an engaged man. And what I said before about Ian being blacklisted in the mainstream, that doesn't mean he isn't successful, as he still made millions since that. I mean, his stuff is really selling like crack. Now, as for the beef, it's officially dead. Now, it's not like everyone in the situation is buddy or whatever, but everyone has since been seen together and probably talked their issues out privately. Carti and Kerwin have posed in a photo, and it's a sign that they have no problem together, and really they never did, because like I said, the beef was between Austin and Ian. Ian has made multiple appearances on Kerwin's YouTube channel, like on his talk show where he talks to both Ian and Rocky, and the same goes for Austin and Ian. They've been seen together with Lucas Sabat, and in an Instagram live, which was less than a year ago, surprisingly, Ian talks very positively about Asspizza and how he still pays attention to everything he's doing for the youth.
You f with Asspizza? Yes, I love Asspizza, no cap. Yeah, I f with Asspizza heavy. Like, I don't talk to Asspizza. I'm not about to cap, but like I pay attention to everything that he do on the internet, I should say. So I definitely pay attention from the distance, and he's getting better and better. Like, the niggas who had the vision in Asspizza from the start was me and Luca. I was introduced to Asspizza through... No, actually, I found Asspizza through Luca. Luca was away in Paris or somewhere. I took Asspizza up under the wing, just on my dolo, you feel me? So, yeah, I f with him. Like, I'm glad that he wasn't one of the kids that I raised and they didn't become shit. But no kid that I raised didn't become nothing. Like, you feel me? Like, even if you not shit yourself, you know you got a certain expectation to live up to.
And in a 2018 Dialed promotional interview with Hot 97, Carti shouts out the Spaghetti Boys.
It's a lot of Africans out
Yeah,
there.
so they
Of
look
course.
at him, they like, damn, he just like me. You know what I'm saying? So they go crazy.
Yeah.
You know who Kerwin DJs for him sometimes.
Shout out to the Spaghetti Boys.
Yeah, Spaghetti Boys. That's my
All
boy.
day.
Shout out to Kerwin, man. Shout out to Asspizza, all y'all, man. See y'all boys, Harlem.
Yo, Kerwin has a pencil on his face, bro.
And was seen wearing Asspizza stuff, so it's obvious that there's no tension between anybody in the situation. Now, like I said, everyone is successful in their own way. So Ian and Carti, while they are and still will be brothers for life, they've just been doing their own thing. And the same goes for Austin and Kerwin. Austin has since left the Spaghetti Boys, but is still cool with Kerwin, so yeah. Everyone is doing good in their own way, and that's all we want to see. 4 young black men thriving in the game. Beautiful. Prior to doing research for this video, I thought that this was just a regular random fight, but it's pretty interesting about how deep this beef actually went and how deep the videos go. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video or you learned something new, and if you made it this far, comment down below what you think about this whole beef, because this was actually a pretty unique situation. Comment down below your favorite Carti song, SoundCloud era, Dialed, self-titled, leak, doesn't matter. Comment down below.
My favorite song from Carti is Skeleton.
What? Why are you still here? But anyways, comment, like, subscribe, and I'ma holla at y'all boys.